Alright guys, I'm in a chatting mood today. You guys are so lucky. This video just inspired me. Honestly, TikTok videos inspire me to talk about things. So, I was watching a video and it was Blair White interviewing people about who they're voting for and why. And so she just asked, went around, did a random interview, was like, who are you voting for? And then when they said who they were voting for, she would ask them why. And so, of course, and this is maybe the third video I've seen about people just doing political interviews. And y'all know my opinions on political things is very I don't know. I do not align myself with either political party. Personally, I'm very independent. I don't agree wholeheartedly with either political party. I don't blindly follow one or the other or highlight one over the other. And my thoughts on both party. I just think the two-party system is so broken in so many ways. You have people who are diehard Democrats and will just blindly vote for anyone who's claims to be a Democrat, whether or not they actually agree with their political parties or political views, or policies or not. And then you have people who are just diehard conservatives and they're going to vote for whoever's claims to be a conservative, whether they actually agree with their policies or not. And I feel like you just have people voting based off of the party system that they align themselves with, rather than actually voting for people who are actually knowledgeable, have good policies. I just feel like the political system in our country is pretty bad. Honestly, Bernie Sanders, and this is how, if you go down rabbit holes, which I've fallen into a couple of times, you know what? I just love hearing perspectives on things, right? So, a while back, and I know I'm getting off topic, we'll get back to the topic of this video, but a while back, I remember I went down this rabbit hole, talking about, pretty much how the world is actually run by who was it? The Freemasons, right? And that the Freemasons are this huge demonic cult, essentially, who run the entire world, and they are in control of celebrities, politicians, so many just people with power are a part of this group. And pretty much, whether you're a Republican or conservative, whether a politician is a Republican or conservative, they're all controlled by the same group who controls so much of the wealth and all this other stuff. If you look into it, you'll fall down that rabbit hole too. And I also think the thing, I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist or anything, but if you listen to some of them, they do make sense. From just a logical standpoint. And, it's making a lot of sense. You hear it, it might sound crazy. Just because it sounds crazy doesn't mean it's not true, right? Somebody said that religious people are more likely to believe conspiracy theories. And I feel like it's not even that we're more likely to believe a conspiracy theory. I feel like you're just more likely to question the things that the world tells you is good or moral, because as a Christian, your faith, basically the Bible talks so much about the world and the world being corrupt and the world being full of evil and everything. And the world literally means the society at large. It's not talking about it's just how the Bible talks about the world and how the world is literally controlled by Satan. That's in the Bible. So I don't think it's that people religious people or Christians just blindly follow conspiracy theories. Just they sometimes make sense and have logic to it. So anyways, a while back I had watched that conspiracy theory about the Freemasons. And it was actually this it was like this famous person. It was like a 3-hour video, but basically he just exposed like how all of the people in like the media and in entertainment, how they're all like part of this secret demonic organization. You know, people talk about like the Illuminati, that it's basically all linked to this, just different name for the same thing. And you know, it's like if enough people start telling you the same story, eventually it's like they can't all be lying. Everyone can't be lying at the end of the day. I've seen enough videos of people talking about it that I'm like, okay, there's got to be some truth to this. So that video I watched like years ago, and I was like, this makes sense, honestly. Like, it's the reason that regardless of who's in power, nothing major gets done. Like, you never see any major changes because they're just two sides of the same system. Like, they're both not actually working towards helping people. And basically the video said that regardless of what political party gets in power, they're both being controlled by that elite group, whatever. And so basically, going back to this video, because that's going to take me down another rabbit hole. It's just like, if you really think about it, how much change actually happens from whoever gets in a position of power. I do think like certain presidents, it's been better. Like, life was definitely a lot better in my opinion. I was talking with some of my coworkers about this too. I said, I swear I had more money back in 2020. Like, I'm more broke now than I was in 2020, and I technically make more money, but because inflation, everything's way more expensive, and the amount of money people make is not matching how much things cost. So it's like I make more money, but somehow I'm more worse off than I was before because the inflation and the cost, like the rising cost of everything. I'm like, if y'all are really saying that y'all think the past 4 years have been the best 4 years of your life, I'm just like, I don't know if I would believe someone who says wholeheartedly that they believe it. I'm not even going to speak on Joe Biden as a president because I honestly don't think Joe Biden even was actually running this country. I think he was a figurehead at the end of the day. That man is old. He probably has dementia. Has anyone actually even seen Joe Biden recently? I heard he was sick. Like, there's just so much. Like, Joe Biden was way too old. I honestly don't understand how he became president. He definitely does not seem like he's all the way there. So whoever was actually running this country, it was not Joe Biden. I also think the president in a lot of the ways is a figurehead anyways. At the end of the day, like, the president doesn't have that much power. They're just the person that we see. I don't know. This whole, like, the whole political thing, in my opinion, is all just, like, I don't even want to say it's a waste of time. I just think it's, like, no, there's not enough people actually willing to do things to change, and then they're always like, well, this other side blocked me from being able to do that, and the other side, you see how every time either political person gets into power, they always are just blaming the other person for why they couldn't. I also think, though, that the amount of hate that Trump gets, in my opinion, is not normal for a candidate to be hated that much. And knowing what you know about, when you watch the documentary, or watch the video, I think I talked about it a while ago, on my channel. It might be a private video now, but if I find it, I'll private or link it in this. But basically, the whole video is basically just saying how, you know, the people who do have the power to change things and run things, they hate people. They hate poor people. They look down on anyone who's not a part of their group. They don't care about anyone who isn't a part of their group. They make fun of, you know, poor people. They make fun of anybody. Like, they don't actually care for any of the people. The people who actually have the power to change things, like, they don't actually care. And that every person president has had to have been a part of that group in order to be elected president, regardless of if they're Democrat or Republican. So I just think, when you really think about it, if Trump was a part of their group, would he get as much hate in the media as he did? I don't think so, because I feel like before Trump became president, I feel like presidential races used to be like, okay, like, whether or not you were a Republican or a Democrat, it was just like, okay, like, you're voting for your party and you're basing it off of like actual policies. Like, I just remember, like, presidential races before Trump did not used to be like this, like, spewing so much hate and just, I don't know, like, the state of the world we're in now is crazy. And I feel like people who are blaming Trump for like all of the problems is weird. I don't agree with that. I will say, though, I do think a lot of the hate Trump gets is just like political propaganda that was spewed, basically. Like, so many people were told, like, Trump is this horrible person, he's racist, he did all of these things. Like, just the smear campaign against him, and like, how, why are they so afraid of him being president? Like, he was president for 4 years. Did anything bad actually happen under Trump? I'm trying to understand. Like, I really don't think it's warranted how much hate he's gotten. Like, no presidential candidate, I've never heard of a presidential candidate getting hated on and having this smear campaign he's had like prior to him running for office. So just like the way he's so openly hated in the media is, I feel like, not normal. In my opinion, it's not normal. So part of that makes me believe, like, either he's acting actually outside of what the people who are actually in control want, and maybe he actually is not being controlled by, he either is not a part of this group, which is why they're scared of him, or it's just like, I don't know. That's the only thing that makes sense to me personally. But anyways, that was just, I kind of got sidetracked. The original point of this video was watching a lot of these public interviews. So the first video I watched, they were like, can you name one policy that Kamala Harris has that is why you support her? Like, what policies of hers do you like? Not one person could name a single policy. And supposedly Kamala Harris has said, like, she won't announce her policies until after she's president. I don't know if that's true. That's just some comments that I read that that's just another video that I saw. Y'all can fact check me if there's policies that she has stated. Please inform me in the comments. Like, just make sure. I don't want to spew misinformation. I feel like I'm truly an unbiased individual when it comes to this. I don't hate Kamala Harris. I don't hate Trump. I don't blindly hate either political party. Like I said, I'm just independent. So it's like, I don't really have hatred or disdain for either side. Anyways, So basically, they were doing interviews, and like, what policies does she have that you're in support of? And not one person can name a policy. Does that not scare y'all? People are voting for someone and they don't even know their policies. It's just like the group think, and this is why I'm independent, because I don't want to be mindlessly, blindly following a political party and just voting for whoever is a part of that political party. Also, that leads me to the next part of this video. So the other video I watched, the one I was talking about originally, was Blair White, and she said, "Why are you who are you voting for?" Everyone who said they were voting for Kamala could not name like a specific reason why they were voting for her. It was just like, well, I'm voting for her. It's obvious why I'm voting for her, but they couldn't state specific reasons. I'm like, and then, okay, actually, let me backtrack. So they weren't stating specific reasons, but they were saying like, oh, because democracy and because she's Democratic, like basically just because she's a Democrat and for democracy. But tell me why, and this is just my hot take. Y'all don't come for me now. Don't come for me. But I was just like, what was democratic about how she got on the presidential ballot to begin with? Because last time I checked, Kamala never stated... Let me just backtrack. How Kamala, am I saying her name right? How she got on the ballot was not a public vote. Basically, Biden dropped out, and the DNC just replaced him with Kamala, and who voted for her? That's not democratic. Last time I checked, democracy meant the public had a voice and had a choice in the vote and chose for the person to be elected, right? But the DNC essentially just replaced a presidential candidate, full force, no vote. If the vote took place, it wasn't publicly. And I'm thinking, they just announced that she's going to be representing the DNC now. And I'm thinking, how is that democratic? Like, have you ever heard of someone getting on a ballot without being voted by the actual public? There's nothing democratic about that. Like, y'all can't sit here and tell me that that is a democratic way for someone to become president. So my thoughts on that is, if the Democratic Party is willing to write someone on the ticket without taking a vote from the public, like, they could have taken an emergency vote at least, like, hey, President Biden has to drop out of the race. Here's are some other nominees that we think y'all should consider for the ballot. They literally told y'all, oh, it's going to be Kamala. She's just going to replace him. And people just full-heartedly, oh, yeah, Kamala Harris, great. We support it. We love it. But did y'all vote for it? No. I just think that's wild. Because the amount of... I don't think people realize what that means. Honestly, I think people are just so blindly accepting of things. The Democratic Party essentially has just proven that they're willing to take away your democracy at the end of the day by announcing a presidential candidate without taking a vote from the public. And then also just the way the people who are Democrats just blindly support it, don't even care that they didn't actually vote on it, just like, oh, they're telling us it's going to be Kamala now, I guess I support Kamala, however you say her name, I'm so sorry. I want to say it's Kamala. Anyways, I just think it's crazy that people will blindly follow a political party and support anyone on their political party, whether or not they actually earned or wanted to run. Because it's just like, there's just nothing, like, everything about that is so fishy to me. I'm sorry. That is so fishy, and I don't trust that. But also, how people are upset about that or questioning that, but also saying like, oh, she's gonna bring democracy back, when she didn't even get on the ballot through actual democracy, is crazy to me. Like, it's honestly just like y'all are being told, y'all were told who to vote for instead of y'all actually picked who to vote for. Like, are y'all understanding what I'm saying? That is just crazy to me. And honestly, like, if you really get into the nitty gritty, I feel like the entire, like, political system in the party is all, like, it's all a scam. It's all a scam at the end of the day, because basically we're told our votes count, but honestly, most of the time they don't. And then there's still this board who can basically be like, well, even if the public wants a certain person, we can decide that we don't agree with it and vote for who we want anyways. So we're like, we trust what's it called? Our representatives. The House of Representatives are essentially supposed to vote the way that the states tell them to vote, but they technically can go against the vote and vote for who they want anyway. So it's just like, it's all a scam. It's all a scam at the end of the day. And then the point system and everything else, that I feel like we just have the fakest democracy, and people act like it's democracy. We really have a republic at the end of the day. Anyways, my whole thoughts at the end of the day is that the amount of groupthink in political parties is astounding. It's crazy how people will blindly follow anything their political party tells them to follow without doing research, without thinking about it, without actually knowing policies. And like, I just feel like people aren't thinking for themselves anymore. It's just like, oh, I'm a Democrat, I'm a vote everything blue. Everything blue. Oh, I'm a conservative, I just vote everything red. Like, do you actually care about the policies that are happening? Or it's just like, you just assume because someone's a Democrat that they have your best interest in heart. And that's not necessarily the truth. I feel like that's why it's important to actually, like, research people. And honestly, the research that I found or seen about Kamala Harris is not the best. Like, apparently she was working with shady prosecutors. As when she was a DA, she was responsible for putting a lot of people behind bars. Even innocent people behind bars, because she was working with pretty much like someone who was doing shady practices with their drug testing, and it was like some of the evidence was falsified. It's just crazy. So yeah, I don't know. I just think, again, people aren't thinking for themselves anymore. They just blindly follow whatever they're told to follow, whatever they're told to listen to. And I just wish more people would actually think about things. Like, are you supporting this person because you truly think they're the best person for the job? Or it's just like, well, that's who they're telling me I have to vote for because of XYZ. I also think people shouldn't be scared to, like, hold unpopular opinions. If there's one thing I hope people get from my channel, is don't be scared to share your unpopular opinion. Everyone doesn't have to agree with you, and that's okay. Like, don't be scared to share how you feel. You feel how you feel. I love people who are unapologetically themselves. Even if, like, I have people who say the most out-of-pocket things. I'm like, that's so wild, but I love that you were willing to say that and not care how it made you look. You know? It's just like, so many people, like, what's it called? Like, skirt on being PC and wanting to be a certain way. And I just love everyone, and everyone, I'm sorry. But basically, like, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, people are so scared of saying the wrong thing and getting canceled that they don't actually speak their minds and speak their true feelings. And I feel like a lot of issues don't get. What's refreshing for me, it's refreshing to hear people state actual opinions that they formed on their own by doing research or through their own experience, who aren't afraid to voice, their truth. And that's something I love. I feel like specifically black people, in my opinion, like, they are not afraid. And I especially feel like people from the hood are not afraid to voice their opinions. And I love that about, like, people who are just unapologetic with how they feel. Like, I don't agree with this, I don't like that, and are not afraid to say it. Like, stand on your opinions, right? Now, opinions can be ignorant. Opinions can be ignorant. Like, you might make an opinion without knowing all of the facts, all of the truth. And if that's the case, once you learn the information, you're allowed to change your opinion. There's nothing wrong with, getting new information and maybe using that new information to make a better opinion, to form a better opinion. Like I said, opinions are neither right or wrong. Opinions are basically just, that's how you feel about a certain situation. Now, based on your morals, based on your character, my morals might tell me certain things are wrong, but someone else's might not share the same morals as I do and might think that's okay and have a differing opinion based off of that, right? So, like, opinions at the end of the day stem from more than just, like, someone's background, more than just, like, your experience. Like, there's so many things that affect the opinions that people have. But at the end of the day, everyone is entitled to their opinion. No one should be scared to state their opinion. Now, what I will say though is you should be respectfully stating your opinion. It should not be like, oh, I hate all blah 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 because whatever. Like, that's just you being, like, rude. I mean, when I'm saying opinion, it's just like, I feel like this is, and be able to stand, like, be at least be able to say why you don't agree with something, or why you support this thing over that. Because the thing about me, I try to think about things before I form an opinion. I at least try to, like, think about it, see how I feel about it, where I come from, before stating, like, this is how I feel. I also do try to be as unbiased as possible. Now, at the end of the day, I'm going to be everyone's biased to some sort of degree. I always say I'm biased because of my faith, because of my religion, because of being a Christian. I'm always going to choose Jesus over anything. But at the end of the day, I also still have opinions on things. Like, being a Christian doesn't mean I don't hold opinions on other things happening in the world. But I do think, like, it's easier for me to not hate people. Like, I don't hate people who don't agree with me. I still see them as people. I can still love someone who I don't agree with. I think that's probably one of the ugliest things that's come out of the recent, like, political parties. Is just, there's so much hatred, and the, polar the polarization of the parties and how extreme it's gotten. Like, anyone who's a Democrat is unworthy, or anyone who's a conservative is unworthy. Like, there's not as much, what's the word, like, unity? That's not the word, but, like, bipartisan, I can't think of the word right now, but I'm trying to say, like, where both sides, like, can come together on issues that they agree with. I think that is being bipartisan, but I might not be correct. Basically, I'm just trying to say, like, there's not enough people, like, the two sides don't, like, come together on the issues that they agree with anymore. It's just all, like, you're wrong about this, and you're wrong about, and I'm right about that, and you're wrong. It's so much hatred. It's so much just, like, division. It's creating so much division, y'all. And that is why I personally don't like the two-party system. I feel like it's very divisive, and I feel like it's created so much like strife even within families, because I remember growing up, like, people would be like, oh, I'm a Democrat and I'm a Republican, and people weren't like hateful of someone being a Democrat or Republican. But now it's just like, oh, you're a Democrat, like, I can't be friends with you. Or, oh, you're a Republican, you suck. Like, that to me is just like, it's gotten so extreme. It's gotten so extreme. And I truthfully think some people build their entire morality based off of their political party, which is also extreme in my opinion. Like, some people's entire morals are based off of their political stance. Like, they don't get their morals from religion, they get their morals from their political party. Like, they believe being a part of that political party makes them a good person. That is an extreme take, in my opinion. And don't agree with that. Like, you being a Democrat or you being a Republican doesn't automatically make you a good moral human being. Like, your political stances are social constructions at the end of the day. This is me being too what's it called? I don't want to say too logical, but too, like, the psychologist and sociologist degree and minor is popping out, because sociology, basically, you study how it's just like, sociology was probably one of the most interesting things that I studied in school, and it's kind of like a pseudoscience, but it's like realistic because it applies to your everyday life. But it's just like, everything socially constructed only exists because we as a society decided that it exists. Like, political parties are completely man-made. Like, we made them up. Someone at some point in time said, Democratic Party stands for the XYZ, and this is what it represents, and blah, blah, blah. And someone else agreed with them, and now it's a thing. But it only exists because society created it, right? So, social constructions are not rigid, they're not strict, they change as society changes. So, social constructs are, race is also a social construct, gender is also a social construct, and these are all pretty much just concepts of things that we use to understand the world, but they are not rigid, they are constantly changing. Essentially, as society changes, as society's morals and normals changes, right, things that are normal today would be not normal 20 years ago. It's just like, you can't, if you base your identity and your morals around something that is not constant and constantly changes, like, you're not basing your stances on something solid. That is why, personally, as a Christian, my morals are based off of the Bible, because the Bible hasn't changed. There's people who will argue that it has not. And this book has been around for what, 2,000 plus years. So, society at large has changed a lot over time. The Bible and the laws of the Bible have not changed. They've been constant, the same. Today, yesterday, and tomorrow, okay? So anyways, I really do think, like, if you build your morals around something that's constantly changing, you're pretty much just going along with whatever someone else tells you. Oh, well, we decided today that it's okay to do this. You're like, okay. That also applies to, like, the laws that people create. Laws are also social constructions. A lot of the laws, though, that we have are based around laws of the Bible. Fun fact. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand how important the Bible was to establishing societies, and also to establishing law and order in societies. because religion provided a backbone, and specifically Christianity provided a backbone. Now we can talk about, there's other religious countries out there. You know, Islamic countries build their countries are built around um, Islam and the faith and the Quran. And so you can look at Islamic countries and how their religion is embedded and their laws are based off of their religion and how their countries are ran. And there's also a lot of countries where Christianity was the root of those countries. And what people don't understand, a lot of the democratic countries that people love were built around Christian principles, Christian laws, and they brought a lot of law and order to those societies where things that used to be normalized were no longer allowed. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people realize, like the impact the laws in the Bible had on, you know, changing and impacting societies and bringing law and order to very, you know, somewhat chaotic societies. Also, I think Jordan Peterson actually did like a whole series. I didn't watch it. I do remember seeing a clip on it, but I know there's people who don't like him. I feel like he has like an amazing, like the way he thinks is very, very amazing to watch. Because I feel like he thinks the way I kind of think sometimes. Like, I think about things and how it impacts, like, not just like this is what people do. I'm like, how does this impact the society at large? Like the things that we are normalizing now, what does that mean for society at large? That's how my brain works sometimes. So anyways, he made a whole documentary, I think, talking about like the impact the Bible had and how it was like the backbone of a lot of major societal changes that benefited so many people, and people don't realize that because, again, like, it's kind of ingrained into, we've normalized a lot of those things. A lot of the things that people take for granted actually came from the Bible. A lot of the morals that people have also come from the Bible, and they don't realize that. They think the morals just exist. Well, I would argue, if I would need a second video to make this argument, but the morals that people have, I do think morals are objective, not subjective. I do not believe in subjective morals because that is such a slippery slope to argue. And I feel like atheists, in my opinion, have a very hard time. Sorry, guys. Atheists have a very hard time arguing objective morals without religion. And it's one of the best arguments for God. But at the end of the day, objective morals exist, and they exist because God ingrained morals into our hearts. That's what I believe as a Christian. Like, the reason you know something's right or wrong, like, you don't need a law to tell you it's wrong to steal or it's wrong to lie. But, you know, those laws are also in the Bible, right? Thou shalt not lie, cheat, steal, kill, all of the 10 commandments, the major 10 commandments. I mean, there's so much more things the Bible says it's wrong, but the main ones, the 10 commandments that pretty much summarize all of the laws that were in the Old Testament are summarized in the 10 commandments. Ooh, excuse me. But it's just crazy to me that people don't realize, like, subjective morals are so dangerous. I don't think that should ever be normalized. But the further people move from religion, that's what you're going to start to see. Because now you're not basing morals on something that is rigid, right? Religion has a very rigid laws. Like, this is right, this is wrong. They're objective, right? So you don't have to question whether or not something is good or bad. when we are moving towards a society that is going to start normalizing subjective morals, well, I think it's okay for my household to live like this and do this. And, I think we should just normalize some things being okay for some people, but not for others. And that's going to be a very dangerous, slippery slope. That is the direction, in my opinion, society is headed towards as people move away from religion and people start pretty much building their morals off of, like I said, political parties, off of XYZ. Like, people can, at the end of the day, morals that are subjective can be based off of anything. Your feelings, how hot it was outside, how angry you were, how sad you were, how mad you were. Basically, it's just like nothing objective, like not having objective morals to base your beliefs around makes you very wishy-washy, but also makes you very what's that word? There's so much uncertainty, unstable. That's what it is. It makes you very unstable. There's this line in the Katy Perry song that I love when she said, I stood for nothing, so I fell for everything. Like, when you don't stand on something certain, if you're not standing on a solid truth, on something that you know and believe objectively, like, you have to stand on truth. Truth has to be objective, right? Truth can't be subjective, because if it's subjective, then it's not truth. Like, objective truth has to be something that is solid, stable, unchanging. Whether you believe it or not, it doesn't change. If you don't base yourself on something truthful and solid, you are going to have a very unstable mindset moving forward. And that line in the Katy Perry song, I stood for nothing, so I fell for everything. Because if you're not standing on solid ground, well, any new information you get, oh, we found new information, so now I believe that. Oh, there's new information about this, so now I believe that. Oh, there's new information. Like, you don't stand on a solid ground, so you fall for anything. And I feel like one of the best things about religion and my faith is that it is solid. It is based off of a truth that is objective, unchanging, and that is how you can have a mental stability and a stable morals at the end of the day. And that's really important, I think, for people to have, because I do think not having objective stances on things and being wishy-washy and just following whatever society tells you you're supposed to, this is what you're supposed to believe, or this is what's okay now. It wasn't okay 10 years ago, but now it's okay to do this, and now it's okay to do that. And you just are like, well, now that you tell me it's okay, I guess it's okay. Like, you just go along with whatever is popular, whatever is normalized, whatever, society tells you you're supposed to agree with or you're supposed to support. Like, you're not standing on anything solid. You're just going along with whatever someone else is telling you you're supposed to believe. And I guess you can say, like, I think, like, the argument people can make against what I'm saying is basically like, well, you're following the Bible. How do you know that that's the truth and that's what you're supposed to follow? And I would say, like, excuse me. I feel like that's where faith comes in. Like, you can put your faith in pretty much anything you choose to put it into. You can put your faith in a political party. You can put your faith in, I keep saying political party. There's other things you can put your faith in, I guess. You can put your faith in other religions, right? Like, but whatever you build your morals and your stance and character off of, you have to trust that what that person is telling you is the truth. And if you look at the track record of how much things have changed, how much this has gone one way, well, 25, and I mean, even with the political parties, it'll be like 50 years ago, there was a switch between the parties and they changed what policies they agreed with, because you know how the whole slavery thing technically was the Republican Party, and then they tell you, well, the party switched, and the Democratic Party is now what the Republican Party used to be, whatever. That's what they tell us, right? Who knows what if that's actually the truth. Honestly, I feel like the Democratic Party probably just let me stop. Anyways, I just think, like, again, whatever you put your faith in, whatever you build your morals, your stances off of, it needs to be something that you can trust is the truth. If it's not the truth, if it's not solid, if it's not objective, then it's like you're not standing on solid ground at the end of the day. I personally think the Bible is something that has been around for thousands of years. It is the most popular book in the world to this day. If you read and understand the Bible, because you can read the Bible and not understand it, there is so much just truth and wisdom in what the Bible says. And when you're reading the Bible, it's crazy because I do feel like it actually does come alive. Like, I'm reading a Bible written thousands of years ago and being like, this is still true to this day. How can something written thousands of years ago still apply 2,000 years later, still have truth, still hold wisdom that applies to you, like, regardless? I just feel like the Bible is full of so much wisdom and truth and just things that I feel like, even if I don't agree, and this is something where I feel like I had to learn to not push what I thought was right into the Bible, right? And take it for what it is, right? The Bible was written 2,000 years ago. And the Bible also has it's multiple authors, right, telling the same story. It's already, like, how the Bible came to exist is already pretty, like, crazy. It's such a unique book. There will never be a book like the Bible in existence ever again. There are people who are, like, English scholars who tell you, like, the Bible is one of the most unique books you will ever find. But it's also just, again, it's something that it's been solid for the past 2,000 years. Translations do not change the meaning of what's in the Bible, because I know that there's people who are like, the Bible was changed from what it originally stated, and there's new information, and this was taken out, and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, the message in the Bible stays the same, regardless of the different translations that exist. Translations exist so that to make things more accessible to people, right? Translating a Bible from Greek, what was it written in? Aramic? I'm not saying it. Yeah, I'm embarrassing myself. The original Bible, or the Old Testament, I believe, was written in Aramaic, and the New Testament was written in Greek. Obviously, in order for someone like me to read it, it had to be translated into English, which is the King James Bible, I believe. I don't know which one was first translated, but there's also the Ethiopian Bible. But they're all translations of the same thing, right? So that people who don't speak Aramaic or Greek can also understand the Bible, and get the information in the Bible. Like, doesn't mean it was changed or the message has changed, as some people will try to argue. Anyways, this was a long video. Basically, I just wanted to state my opinion that I think there's too much groupthink happening in these political parties, and people really aren't thinking for themselves. They're just blindly following their political party at this point, and I feel like it's really crazy and sad to watch, because people aren't even voting at this point for who they think actually deserves it. It's just like, I just want a Democrat to be in power, or I just want a Republican to be in power. And I think that is just really sad. All right, that's all I got for you guys.